Welcome back.
Yeah. It's been way too long.
I know. It's been like 6 years. Oh, 3 months? That's all?
Well, when
feels
we're not
like
hanging
longer.
out, it feels like that.
I know. It's terrible.
Yeah, we took a brief but much too long hiatus.
Yes.
While I started my new job.
Yeah, Stacie's been busy killing it as a business bitch.
Yeah. Trying to at the very least. Something's killing.
Yeah.
It's killing
Something's
me.
killing something.
Yeah,
Either
exactly.
way.
No,
I mean,
things are
that's
good.
like the rat race and the wolves of Wall Street and etc.
Less cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
That's I do not belong in that environment. That environment does not work for me. Like,
yeah, and of course I always thought that there's no way I belong in that environment, but this particular company is so like touchy-feely and lovely that I can do that.
Yeah.
Even though it's the financial world,
Yeah.
it's what can you do to make the world a better place using money.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
I really
It's
I
very
can get
Bruce
behind
Wayne.
that.
It's very Bruce Wayne of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wear my Batman costume at work.
That dude, is there a dress code? Because if there
No,
isn't, go
but
for it.
can I tell you?
I have the cowl if you need to borrow.
Totally. My team, we found out we're all Slytherin.
Yeah.
We all took over the library. That's our new office.
Nice.
It's completely dark in there. You have to push a button and a bookcase opens
No
to get
way.
into our Viper
Common
den.
room.
Yeah.
That's
well, there's
awesome.
couches and
Yeah.
scotch.
Oh, maybe I
and-
will come visit you at work. Now
Yeah.
you're like enticing me into
Yeah.
your.
So there's 3 of us, and we're all Slytherin, and
Nice.
we're kicking ass.
Well, Slytherin and Ravenclaw, this is a little known fact, unless you're like me and you care about
Know
this
it.
stuff. And yeah, Slytherin and Ravenclaw have a similar makeup as far as like psychologically. They're Slytherin are just a little more like, this is why a lot of Ravenclaw too will take the big test. So if you're a Harry Potter nerd, there's a big test, which is all the questions from Pottermore that will give you percentages of your house. So a lot of Ravenclaw will get like also a high percentage of Slytherin, and it's just a matter of like, what is your what's your priority?
Well, I told you what
You know what I
happened
mean?
to me.
You became
I became Slytherin.
You
'cause
became a Slytherin
when I was just a homeschool mom with a degree.
I know, what kind of slacker would have such a
Well, when we would learn, you would learn for learning's sake.
Yeah.
And then when I tested Pottermore and all the ones that you threw at me, I was Ravenclaw, like through and through.
yeah.
Well, as a part of the onboarding process of this new company I'm working for, you have to take the Pottermore quiz. You cannot get onboarded.
So it's
and
obviously run by wizards.
yes.
Okay.
And I tested and I got Slytherin. So obviously there was a mistake. So I made up a new email address and I took it again. And I got Slytherin. So I came immediately to you.
Yeah.
Like something is wrong. And you said, no, slow your roll. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
The difference between Ravenclaw and Slytherin is ambition.
Yeah.
And when it was learning for learning's sake, you were obviously a Ravenclaw. And now that it's learning towards an ambition of sorts, like my career, the rest of my life,
Yeah.
I'm a Slytherin.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all for house
doesn't mean I'm
equality.
evil,
No,
right?
not at all. And like, honestly, some of the most badass people that I know in my life are Slytherin. You know? So, yeah. Ravenclaw and Slytherin.
You can count me among them. Yeah, we have
right.
we have
Slytherclaw.
one person in our office, our little den. That's Ravenclaw. And that's my husband. He's in there with us.
Yeah.
So we let him in.
He's definitely a Ravenclaw. He's like, he's even got like the cozy sweater, like sit in the corner, read a book
thought Puff.
vibe. Like, no, because he does like to read and learn. And like, I feel like he still has that kind of like, Puffs, I think, are like, they're cool with like, I'm going to go like work out in the garden or like more like go for a hike and like rescue dogs and
That's my
like.
son. You think
Yeah,
Kent-
he's a puff for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, him and Brody, those two.
Totally.
Oh, they're puffs for life.
Totally.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Okay. Well, this isn't a podcast about Harry Potter.
Oh, but it could be.
It could be.
Actually, that brings up another point. Remind me, I want to do something on princesses because I was like raging about Princess Leia the other day, and I realized like people need to hear my opinions on Princess Leia.
All right.
So among other Disney princesses.
Okay. Well, we're supposed to do a princess one anyway.
We definitely need to cover princesses.
We're going to do that.
Fictional characters. Yes.
Yeah, to talk about fictional characters and then like fictional goddesses and stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm all about that.
Oh, guys, it's about to get real in here. Okay,
Although people have been
telling
telling me we should do something about female pirates, and I said you're
sounds
our
great.
Pirate girl.
Oh,
so
hell yeah,
we'll do that.
Oh, dude, I got this Japanese pirate lady.
That's
you gotta
the one
know about
that my work friend just told me about.
Oh yeah,
I said Tabitha probably knows, but I'm on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do not fuck with that lady because she will fucking kill you. Okay. But today,
what are we doing?
It's June, so if you're here and you're queer, you know what's going on. It's Pride Month.
Woohoo! Pride Month.
Okay, I've been rocking the rainbows all month. Didn't get to Pride because it's too much it's my son's birthday weekend.
Yeah.
So instead we had a Sweet 16 party with tiaras, and it was fucking...
tiaras and mustaches.
#, gay enough. Yeah.
It was pretty gay. It was pretty inclusive.
It was,
I have to say,
exactly.
It was very inclusive and sweet.
I was like, we joked about throwing him a Sweet 16, and he's like, yes. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about like with tiaras. And he's like, yes. Yeah. So I was like, you sure? Because I'll go. And he's like, do it. So it was on.
Mustaches and tiaras and beads and rainbow cupcakes.
Yeah.
Rainbow gluten-free.
Delicious,
amazing rainbow cupcakes.
Yes. It was fun. It was probably like way less naked than Pride, but still fun.
Appropriately so.
Yes. So we're going to get gay in here, and we're going to talk about some women that you need to know about. And then I'm also, so in researching this, I kind of targeted something really specific. I wanted to know, like, who was the first, like, recorded gay woman. That was my, like...
Me too.
You too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird because gay women didn't exist before 1870. In fact, like, gay people didn't exist because there was no...
No, men did because it was illegal.
Men did, but there was no homosexuality. Like, it wasn't called homosexuality. And so before that, it was just kind of like people were just like, people? It's so crazy. Like, that everyone was like, oh, this is just a thing that humans do. And, like, why should we put a word on it?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, no, it needs a title. So in my research, I found that, like, first of all, Germany, hotbed for, like, firsts when it comes to homosexuality, as far as like a separate thing, a study, an area of study, a psychological condition, according to some, or a third sex. This guy in Germany, whose name is in here somewhere,
that guy.
He's like, it's a third sex.
What's his nuts?
Actually, I have it. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. Which we will.
You don't like hair and what's his nuts?
Hair and what's his nuts? Hair on his nuts.
What's and nuts and.
Okay.
If I'm funny, we can't edit it out.
No, don't edit it out. I love it. Okay. What the fuck? Where is this guy's name? So, gay women and men weren't called Karl Heinrich Ulrichs. Okay.
Yeah.
In 1862. So the term homosexuality was coined by Caroli Maria Kurt Benny in 1868. And Karl Heinrich Ulrichs coined the term uranism. So lesbians were called Urania and gay men were called Uranian. So they had like a different...
U-R or EU?
U-R-A-N-I-S-M. Uranism.
Okay.
It's named after a god.
Yeah.
Or a goddess. And so basically, like, he believed that homosexuality was like a third sex that mostly gay men, were a third sex of people. So
Okay.
kind of there was like a combination of an acceptance of old ideas that there was a choice, or that, and then new ideas that this was just a thing that,
Who you were,
this
basically?
is, yeah,
You were just born this way, and this is who you are.
exactly. And more that, actually. And this is all taking place in the 1860s in Germany.
Okay.
And so also the first, once homosexuality was like a thing, you saw a change of how people were treating it. So people were like coming out. Like before, it had just been like they were just gay and it was like not a thing. And like now all of a sudden it was like a thing because they put a name on it. So there was like a shift in how gay people acted in society.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So like this is around the same time you see the first gay magazine, like the first gay publication that's like specifically written to the gay community.
Wow.
And this is around the time that you also see it become illegal, but only for men.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that in my research as
Yeah.
well.
So it's totally cool to be a lesbian.
Yeah.
It's fine. No one cares.
Well, in mine, and I'll bring this up when I talk about my chick, that parents wanted their teenage daughters hanging out with other teenage girls. You don't get pregnant. And they had very, very close relationships. Like from the outside, it may even seem like a lesbian relationship, maybe without the sex, but very, very close, very emotional, very intimate relations. But it's girls, so who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is like what I'm ultimately going to talk about is the first woman to say, I'm gay and I don't want to have to get married.
Yeah.
And the women's rights movement needs to speak for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this was what, 1985?
Close. 1904. So in 1896, you see the first first gay periodical appears, and it lasted until 1932. Actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to see copies. It's just German?
Yeah, it's a der Eigen, which means the self. But like
that's fucking deep.
It's deep. It's like it means like yourself, like the core of your being. Like it's one of those German words that's just kind of like poetry all by itself.
Yeah.
The Scientific Humanitarian Committee is the first gay rights organization organized in Germany in 1897. And in 1904, the woman that I'm going to talk about, Anna Rüling, gave the first political speech to discuss lesbian rights.
Wow.
So I guess I'm going first because I just started.
Yeah, go ahead. That was a great intro to yourself.
Okay, so born Theodora Theo Anna Sprüngli in 1880, she became Anna Rüling. That is her pseudonym that she wrote under. She grew up in a pretty conservative business household. Her father was a businessman. Her mother was a mother. So
You don't say.
one of those. And she, she studied all the important things that young women should study, music and gymnasium.
Flowers.
And so
cooking.
all
keeping
the
a
important,
household,
exactly,
all that
all
stuff.
those important things that young women need to be taught in order to be a wife. And she was actually an accomplished violinist and probably would have gone into music if it had not been for an injury that she sustained rescuing a child. Now, when I found out this fact, I spent like 2 days trying to find any further details or reference to what this was.
Rescuing a child.
Yes. And she was injured doing it.
Yeah.
So whatever it was, it must have been like some degree of danger for her to have like sustained an injury that made it so she could no longer play violin.
Wow.
So I looked and looked and looked, and I found the only other reference that I found to this rescue was that she actually rescued 2 children. And I was like, oh, great.
Double the injury.
Now you've just added another question onto it. And this was not at the same time.
Oh.
The second reference I found was that there had been another incident where she rescued a child.
Makes me think like fire or something.
Yeah,
like
where is she living that there's like
burning building and grabbing, hot coals with her hands, and
this is what I'm saying, like
because she didn't hurt her back.
No,
she didn't break her leg.
It would have been
her hands,
like,
specifically.
Yeah, exactly. So, which hand injuries are pretty hard to recover from. So, but like, how did she? Did she punch some guy and break her hand? I don't know. Yeah. There's no record. And this was kind of a frustrating, I mean, I happen upon these a lot where I find a character of history that I find really fascinating and then nobody else cared and there's like no information.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I know.
Basically, that's what we're dealing with here. She has some more importance. So she starts writing at the age of 17. She leaves music and she starts writing for the Hamburger Fremdenblatt, which is a paper. She's working for August Schürl, who is think like Hearst.
Okay.
For Germany. And she's working like directly with him. Very young. So she's just crash right into journalism. Like this is her thing straight away. She writes newspaper articles, music, theater reviews. She teaches music on the side to like make ends meet. She's moved to Berlin at this time. This is following an incident that she mentions in a speech, which is like why she's famous, is this speech that she gave.
Okay.
And she's more notorious almost, because we're talking about a German woman living in, 1904. And by the time she's in her 40s, shit's gotten pretty real in Germany. And she never joined the Nazi party, but she didn't leave Germany. And she survived the war. And she wrote for what would be considered like a right-leaning paper.
Interesting.
So when it comes to her being kind of a hero of the LGBT community, it's kind of questionable because there's a lot of assumption as to her beliefs regarding what happened during the Second War. She was very much in support of the First World War, but then even as a journalist, didn't really express any opinions about the Second World War. So my assumption is that she just kind of was one of the many, many, many people in Germany who just kept their mouth shut and tried not to get shot.
Yeah.
And especially like she had been an outspoken, as I get into her speech, she had been an outspoken supporter of the LGBTQ community, which didn't have a Q then. Or even like a B.
Or the
it was just
L.
There was none of H.
Or a G.
It was just a big H.
Yeah.
But she kind of quiets down during the war. So I think that it was kind of a keep your head down situation, which like, I don't think makes her a villain. I think a lot of people, imagine this happening on your streets.
Yeah.
What would you do? A lot of people. And so some historians kind of vilify her a little bit. But again, there's no record that she ever joined the Nazi party. There's nothing that she wrote ever came out in support of what was happening. And she just kind of didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So,
but then I think of people like Sophie Scholl.
Yeah.
The young girl who was killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
I don't want to say much about her because I want to talk about her time on an
but
episode.
that's ultimately what you get down to is like, do we want to criticize this person for saving their own ass? I mean, that's ultimately like what you were dealing with in Germany at the time was like, particularly if you weren't a member of the Nazi party and you didn't come out in like staunch support, you were at risk of being clumped in with whoever was getting rounded up that week,
And if you are homosexual, they are rounding up homosexuals.
Yeah. Less women. though.
Well,
because
again.
yeah, as we've discussed, like there were no laws against being a lesbian. It was totally cool. As long as you married some guy and gave him babies, you were fine.
Wow.
So, anyway, so around this time, she's writing, she's getting into activism through journalism. It's kind of hard not to, when you start to really see how the world is going, it's hard not to get involved. So she joins the women's movement. There's not a ton of evidence about her position in the women's movement, her importance in the business, in the movement, her how much she was involved. I mean, she's a journalist, so my assumption is that there was like some degree of importance, and she was close to this like big newspaper man, so I feel like there's probably some degree of importance. Enough that the Scientific Humanitarian Committee, the first LGBTQ advocacy, did I say it right that time?
Yeah.
Invited her to speak in Berlin. So this is where she makes her mark.
Okay.
She is the first woman to ever stand up and say, gay women exist. I'm one of them, and we're all in this together, basically.
Okay.
So on October 9th, 1904, she addresses the issues facing homosexual women in a speech titled, "What Interest Does the Women's Movement Have in Solving the Homosexual Problem?" Again, we're talking, it's translated, and like what she means is not get rid of homosexuals, but she means that we're being, or mistreated or denied rights. And like basically what her main complaint is that homosexuals are, through the structure of society, forced into relationships that are contrary to who they are. And that
and just for society's sake, it doesn't benefit anyone.
No. And that's really what she was talking about.
Yeah.
So she also did believe the ideas that I talked about earlier, where that guy Carl, what's his nut, was talking about third gender. So she was down with that.
Oh, okay.
She felt herself to be a third gender. And in the speech, she also talks a little bit about, I'll link the speech because I was going to read it, but it doesn't make her look great. Also, like, there's, because her ideas were older, her ideas were like, most straight women are probably going to be like totally happy being a wife and mother. But at the same time, they deserve the right to choose that. And because they deserve the right to choose that, so too do we lesbians deserve the right to choose not to get married and to not be bothered by our uncles and aunts and shit about when we're going to have babies. She also believed that homosexuals forced to have children would have miserable children, which I think that she was onto something, but she didn't really, she was coming at it.
Articulate it.
Yeah.
Quite.
Well, she was coming at it from a different angle. Like, I think she was thinking that like homosexuality is an inborn thing, and so too is like misery. So I think that she was like, oh, well, if a gay couple or a gay person has a baby that they don't want, that baby is going to be damaged. And I think that there was damage, but like ultimately we didn't realize that damage was actually inflicted by the unhappy parent and not by like some genetic whatever.
It wasn't passed down.
Exactly. So
it wasn't caught.
Exactly. So to her, she's thinking that this is a thing that happens because the person is unhappy, their baby then is born unhappy, not understanding that there's like a psychological aspect to it. And this is where just the invention of the term homosexuality like really fucks everything up, because now everyone's like thinking about it. And so then you have like conversion therapies and like all of this stuff popping up after this. This is also like right around the time when we started like cutting the tips of dicks off for no reason, like Kellogg and all these like crazy ideas about like, anyway. So
a lot of sexual repression.
Yeah. So she gives this speech that is basically asking the women's movement to embrace the movement of the gay community, to say, look, like, You're looking for rights. We're looking for rights. You want freedom in education and freedom in marriage. So do we.
Yeah.
We want the right to say, no, we don't want to get married and we don't want to have kids. We just want to, for her, she also believed that lesbians were more suited to science and that like all scientists should be lesbians. So like, again, her ideas are a little like, but still.
But she was speaking.
She was trying. Yeah.
Right?
She was coming out and saying like, hey, can we think about the ladies? And if we're going to think about, I'm a woman, I'm all for more rights, but also like, we're all looking for this. We're all on the same team.
We can support each other.
Exactly.
This is a movement and there's room under
Exactly.
the tent for everyone type of
message.
There's
a specific line from the speech that's really important. This is the beginning of her speech, which kind of lays it out. So she says, "Ladies and gentlemen, the women's movement is a historical and cultural necessity. Homosexuality is a historical and cultural necessity, and homosexuality is an obvious and natural bridge between man and woman." So in this, she's saying like that we all, gay people and women, all of the people who are different from the standard are all on the same team. Today, this is an undisputed scientific fact which the ignorant and impatient cannot dispute. 1904, you guys. Many people have asked how I came to this conclusion and could utter the truth about historical and cultural and natural and historical concepts in one breath. Two things which on the surface seem to be opposites. The interest to research the reason of this extended viewpoint is that people in general, when the matter concerns homosexuals, think only of male yearnings. That's what I was telling you about, the weird words that they call. And overlook female homosexuals as they are. They are, of course, less discussed because, as I will say unfortunately, they are women. No cruel justice menaces women, nor does the penitentiary if they follow their natural instincts. But the mental pressure which urinids suffer is just as great, indeed even greater, when the yoke which their male fellow sufferers must bear. To the world which judges, it says greater than the yoke, To the world which judges by outward appearance that they're even more obvious than the female yearnings. Only too often they are overwhelmed by people's moralized misunderstandings. In our total social life, however, yearning women are at least just as important as their male counterparts because they influence our lives in many ways, even if we do not discuss it. So, and what she's talking about are gay women who have assumed the role of a mother against like their desire to do so, and the impact that has on society as a whole. And she even goes into like statistics, because at this point there's already been some research into the number of homosexuals, males, right? So there's already percentages. So she goes into those percentages and then talks about the percentage of women that live in that same area. And then, so she comes up with this number of how many women have been forced into, and then how many offspring they have, and then the overall social impact.
The ripple effect of all that.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm not reading the whole speech, because it's like it's long.
Wow.
Again, I'll post a link to it so you can read it. So she goes on then she continues to write as a journalist. She gives the speech at least 2 more times. She then publishes a collection of lesbian-themed short stories, but under a pseudonym. Then she leaves Berlin and moves to Dusseldorf, where she lives for the next 30 years. At this point, she's already had relationships with women. And actually in her speech, the way that she came out is kind of funny, because she says, particularly the middle class is very, very much against their daughters being gay and homosexuality in general. Basically, she's saying like rich people are educated enough to be okay with it and poor people don't give a shit. It's just the middle class that's the problem. And then she talks about her dad saying, "Oh, this could never happen in my home." And then she says, "Which is obviously not true, and I don't need to add anything to that statement." And I was like, "Damn!" Like that's how she says it. She's just like, obviously fucking gay right here. So, you know.
Wow.
So it's yeah. So she moves to Dusseldorf and she works in the local theater. She does a little bit of writing, and the paper that she writes for is right wing, which has conservative views on women's role in society, but still more liberal than like the Nazis. So, and again, she was never, there's no evidence that she was ever a Nazi. So also it says, so she dies at 72, and everything I've read calls it a sudden death.
Okay.
So, I mean, 72, she's older, but I guess then she just dies suddenly. I don't know.
Like
Stroke, heart attack, something like that. So when she dies, she left journalism in the 30s. Obviously reasons. My assumption is that it was because she wanted to keep her mouth shut about her gayness and just kind of go to Dusseldorf and just like hide, presumably with a partner. There's the little bits that like she lived with a couple of women, and then like, but it's again like there's not a like, I couldn't get two sources to confirm one piece of information. In the late 30s, early 40s, she comes out of retirement to write.
Okay.
And she starts writing for the Delmenhorst. She relocates to Delmenhorst, and then she starts writing for the local paper there.
Okay.
So she dies suddenly in 1953. And at the time of her death, she was one of the oldest female journalists in the Federal Republic of Germany, and is still considered to be one of the first, like, consistent female journalists.
Oh, okay.
Like
female voices.
Yeah.
Journalists.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because it's like she has this like level of importance, but it's really hard to find any information about her, with the exception of people talking about the fact that she can't really be a lesbian hero because maybe she was sympathetic to Nazis. And it's kind of weird because it's like, there's no evidence that she was sympathetic to Nazis. She didn't leave the country, but a lot of people didn't. And I feel like she obviously had some importance at the time because they chose her to speak. Yeah. And if you read her speech, like, she was no dummy. I mean, her plan was a little weird, but she definitely like, knew what was up. Yeah. So I feel like it's sad that she kind of is pushed to the wayside because of that potential, like because of what other people were doing in her country, you know?
Yeah. And people contain multitudes. We've said that so many times.
Yeah.
Like, they're really good on this part, but then they have some blind spots in another part. I know several of the women that we've talked about had that kind of going on, and we felt like, let's not vilify them for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, she at least stood up.
Yeah.
At one point, and
I think that the fact that she left journalism and then came back is telling.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what would you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, I always come back to this, like, and particularly when we talk about what happened in Germany and what's happening even in other countries now. You can't blame everybody, you know? Right. It's like, you can't blame a person for trying to protect themselves.
No.
You know?
Survival is number one.
Yeah. I mean, if she like marched in the street and burned books and like ratted on her neighbors, then fuck her, you know?
Absolutely.
But we're dealing with a person who was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go hide.
And she may have helped usher in an era, because when I think of like 1930s Berlin and think of the clubs and the cabarets and kind of what Christopher Isherwood talked about, I mean, it was off the fucking hook.
Yeah.
As far as be what you are, come as you are, and whatever that is, whatever gender or combination you can think of, it was celebrated at that time. And then Nazis.
Yeah.
So it stopped
Well,
very quickly.
It's crazy too, because it was like, hey, we're going to give a name to this thing. And then it became a separate thing. Like it became a thing, you know? I mean, throughout history, if you do research, like in some places, people thought it was bad. And some places, it was totally normal and accepted. Which shows you that it exists everywhere. Which shows you that it's just a thing, that it happens. People are born gay. End of story. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the facts.
They're just, people.
Yeah. People who like people.
Are the loveliest people in the world.
Yeah. So I learned a lot about the gay community, kind of like the beginning of what became the gay community, because that was the one thing that did come out of this, was people coming out and saying, I'm gay. And supporting
like it's
other
not
people.
an anomaly.
Yeah.
It's not this one chick that's screwed up.
Yeah. And it's not like a secret thing that you do on the side and don't let anybody, like, that's what was happening in the 1860s in Germany, was people, as soon as they put a name on it, they built the community.
Yeah.
Which is kind of beautiful, that the community was ultimately like, it started with hate and now it's like rainbows and you know?
It's like if you name it, they will come out.
Which is awesome. I mean, it sucked for a while, like,
and it continues to suck for too many.
A lot of people. Yeah. But it's a start. We'll see.
Yeah.
So since Stacie and I haven't seen each other in a while and we've forgotten how to control ourselves, we had to split our first episode back into 2 episodes. So stay tuned as Stacie enlightens us on ... You'll
have to tune in. Oh my God, the suspense is killing you, but not really, because I'm going to release him at the same time anyway. We just don't want to have like a 4-hour one episode.
Yeah. Now you can take a potty break.
Yeah.
Pour a new glass of wine.
Absolutely.
Or open a new bottle, whatever.
Whatever, you do you.
Yeah.
We won't judge.
And stay tuned for part 2 of We Talk.
Too much.
Too much.
Sometimes.